what we look like when we're talking into here. Hopefully that is loud. And it sounds like it's going to be loud.
Hey, look at that. We're live.
We're going. Does everything sound good now? This is a fun topic that honestly doesn't get a ton of talk about. That's right. It is. Take two.
Only took 17 minutes to figure out. I think that's a new record.
Yes, you are.
Is that like world's, well, probably slowest troubleshooting?
It was something we hadn't had to troubleshoot yet before, but now, hey, we sound good.
Yeah,
Everyone say we're sounding
now we
better.
got feedback.
Everyone's happy. That's so awesome. Thanks for sticking with us, guys. Thanks for tuning back in. We appreciate you trudging your way through that terrible audio for a hot minute. But today's topic is going to be on recipe building. And the story, the name of the game is actually to get you guys to suggest what styles of recipes you would love to see built. And we will pull up a screen share and we will build it live for you on Brewer's Friend as a software while talking about why we are choosing the malts, hops, yeast, and everything else that goes into building that recipe. So that's the name of the game.
And we know how to do a screen share real easily.
And I do know how to do the screen share. I have practiced that. I have practiced it so hard.
So how do you practice hard?
I always practice hard. I ball.
Oh, jeez. So anyway, welcome probably back to a lot of you.
Welcome in for the very first time to Gina's Brewing. We do live streams every Sunday, and we have perfected it because of how live stream we do.
Someone said today is Sunday, ?
Every Sunday.
Today is whatever day you want it to be.
It is Sunday morning at 8:45. What time do we stream at? 8:45 a.m. right now.
So anyway, tonight, there we go. Okay, so we got somebody already yelling out some beers. So the first one is a Burton Ale.
Burton Ale, okay.
So for those of you that don't know how we are going to format this live stream, we are asking for any recipe, any beer style you can really think of. Any beer style you can think of that you might want to brew, and we will throw together a recipe for you live on this stream using the knowledge that is somehow inside of our little tiny skulls.
Okay, some skulls are bigger than other skulls, and I take offense to that, or I don't. We've gotten one suggestion for a Burton Ale. We're going to be writing these down and taking kind of
Peter's Googling Burton Ale now.
Just want to make sure I know what's going on. Burton Ale specifically, it sounds like it is a basically like an English IPA. It's not, as far as I know, in the BJCP categories, which is why I don't have it off the top of my head. So I'm trying to look up and make sure we've got some round ideas of what we're aiming for there.
Yeah.
Meanwhile, we've got lots of people. Rye saison, cream ale. Wow, lots of people going in.
Okay. All right.
Whew. Good. That's exactly what we want.
All kinds of craziness.
Yeah.
All right, so Burton Ale. Obviously, first thing that comes to my mind is Burton on Trent water profile, right?
Yeah, so we're going to start with water profile. It's going to be a little bit not a little bit. It's going to be a lot of it hard.
Yeah, so you're talking really high calcium content and bicarbonate content. I want to say you want to hit that like 250 range of like bicarbs. Pretty high up there, and then also a lot of extra gypsies, some gypsum to get your
sulfates high.
There we
go. Your sulfates high for that extra kind of bitter mouthfeel. Not bitter mouthfeel, but bitter pop. But then also with a little bit more of an aggressive calcium mouthfeel.
Yeah, so fun facts, if you want to start this recipe from distilled water, we actually carry Burton water salts. So that would be a very easy cheater way to go about it. But otherwise, if we were to start with our water here, which generally has bicarbonates right around 100 ppm, and very, very low sulfates, very, very low chlorides, what we would probably do is add just a little bit of calcium chloride and quite a bit more of gypsum to give us a ratio of about 5-to-1, maybe even 6-to-1 if you really want to push that. And that's going to also bring up our dissolved calcium. So that is probably how I would adjust our water here. Water's tricky because it's going to be different for everyone. But the key thing is, for one, making sure you have hard water, and two, making sure your sulfates are much higher in concentration relative to the chlorides in your water.
That said, let's go ahead and jump into actually building this recipe. So Burton Ale, we're starting off with one that obviously neither of us are super familiar with as a general style. This is one of those historical quote-unquote styles that gets a lot of names, and so we had to kind of go back through and hopefully we get this right. But it's from what I've read so far in the brief 5 minutes that we've been kind of chatting about this, it's going to be very similar to what I expect from an English IPA. So when it comes to English IPA, starting with fermentables, what are we thinking, Logan?
Probably just Maris Otter. Good old Baird's Maris Otter. That's the one. I don't know. There's all kinds of them.
There is a lot, yeah. So basically what we want to do is start with a malt that actually has a little bit of an extra nuttiness, an extra grittiness to it. Basically a malt that's flavorful enough that it's going to carry without having to overload this with a lot of crystal malts.
An extra Teddy Graham cookie character?
Yeah, Teddy Graham cookie character. If you watch our 1823 versus Baird's regular Maris Otter breakdown.
Generally, Maris Otters are going to have that. That's what differentiates them from some other base malts, is they have a nice light sort of, I like to call it Teddy Graham type profile to them, as well as some degree of nuttiness, which can actually vary a lot depending on the maltster.
My go-to on a lot of these Maris Otters is actually Halcyon malt. Halcyon malt is a phenomenal malt by Thomas Fawcett. And it is a slightly lighter version of Maris Otter, but it's got this incredible mid-profile.
Yeah.
It keeps mouthfeel. It keeps a lot of things going there. So I am going to...
I would lean more towards a heritage Maris Otter. Wow, we are just like splitting hairs on malts now, aren't we?
There's a lot to go into. We also play with a lot of malts here, too. So if you guys haven't watched our malt video, you'll notice that we've got, or any of our videos that go upstairs.
Everybody's like, I thought these guys were going to build up a recipe. No,
we're just talking about malts.
Arguing about Maris Otter.
Well, I'm trying to find a nice English crystal. There we go.
Yeah.
All the crystals are going to be there. So pretty classic for a lot of styles in this range is going to be the C60. If you see caramel crystal on a lot of times without a number behind it, just as a recipe in a book, especially the older books before every single level bond of crystal was possible, they're almost always C60. And what this is going to do is going to give you a little bit of caramel flavor that is traditional for English IPAs. Again, hopefully trying to emulate this Burton Ale. I don't see a lot of information. If this McEwen's Champion Ale that you guys see over here is a perfect example, then we're definitely looking for something on the darker side. But I'm also looking for some hard stats. So if you've got hard stats on Burton Ale, throw them in the chat, and then I'll try to take a look.
So anyway, crystal malts. I would try to go British if you can with it. If not, go with a local maltster. We carry Great Western malts a lot here, but we've noticed that their crystal malts aren't necessarily the best. They're more often than not very one-dimensional. Our local maltster, Link Malt, they actually have some crystal malts that are really, really complex. So I think I would definitely try to go with probably a smaller maltster over a larger one if you can't do a British malt, just because you're probably going to end up with a little more complexity out of it. And overall, the grain bill, I would probably keep pretty simple on this, because you want to have that base malt come through.
Exactly. So and that's why you want that base malt to stand up, because you don't want to have to build out a lot with some biscuit malts or some toasted malts, or even Munich or Vienna for that middle. So if you pick a really nice flavorful base malt to start out with, you should end up with a really nice flavorful beer, just focusing on the importance of fermentation and the importance of water chemistry. So let's jump down to that and just kind of spit out something that's based on a classic Burton profile. Let's see if we've got anything in the Brewer's Friend. Edinburgh might be the closest. That looks a little softer than Burton. Oh no, that looks pretty hard.
Yeah,
that's probably the closest. Oh, here we go, Burton on Trent.
I was
Perfect.
Gonna say, the Dublin looked way too soft. Yeah, there you go. So
we've got crazy.
Yeah, check out those sulfates. Yeah, that's the big thing. And actually a lot more salt than I realized.
Yeah. So the historic content. One. I don't know why so decarbonated. So we're looking at the historic, not the decarbonated. I was gonna say that HCO3 rates to everything else looks way off. So we're looking in this water profile right here, and a big thing about that, and why I added that acid malt when it comes to just the overall mash, is a little bit of that acid malt or some sort of pH adjustment is going to be really important for just targeting your mash pH with something that's this high bicarbonate, because that's going to be a very alkaline water.
Oh yeah.
So let's go ahead and do. Can this auto-populate water profile, target water profile?
Yeah, you can do Burton on Trent. It popped up when you had it pulled down.
Oh, this one? Yeah, it does. Perfect.
It's like somebody's used a beer before.
Yeah, I've never done a drop down on the water chemistry. I always build my own water chemistry. All right, so that said, let's go into some hops with Burton, with a Burton ale. Basically, it sounds like we're aiming for weaker IPA. From what I can read.
Challenger.
Burton ale are interchangeable, but so this is okay, an old ale.
You literally didn't read the second line of Wikipedia?
No, I was skipping down. I was trying to find really far. Okay, so this is definitely going to be more alcoholic if it's old ale. So let's actually just bump this up to 15. I think we can still stand by our picking a very flavorful Maris Otter. That's our strategy when it comes to old ales, barley wines, things like that. And the crystal might still stand as well.
I'd leave the crystal. Old ales, in my experience, have been like super sweet. So
yeah,
but with that minerality.
That does make it easier for us when it comes to hop profile, though, because if we're aiming for that old ale hop profile, we only need a couple of additions, and we can really easily go classic English-style hops. So something like Challenger, something like Target, or East Kent Goldings. Obviously, that's the Prodigal. But I like to play around every once in a while and switch it up. So let's go ahead and say that we're using Target for the bittering edition.
Not Challenger. Sad day. I'd use Challenger.
I'll challenge you to that. And this isn't going to be terribly hoppy. We're probably aiming in that 45 IBU range. Again, I couldn't pull up some vital stats, although I probably can on an old ale.
Yeah.
So if we go old ale BJCP, I don't know if it is a... Yeah, so 30 to 60. I was aiming for 45. That's perfect right in there. 6 to 9%. Right. Totally.
Or 15.
So for this kind of beer at this alcohol percentage, this gravity, let's make sure that final gravity is going to be in 1022. Looks like we're going to
so high FGs. That's the big thing right now.
So we're probably going to be like 1.25 with something with that alpha at 60 minutes.
90 minutes. 90? No.
Yeah, it's going to be a long boil.
90
60, 90. You should be boiling this a long time. Let's change that boil size over there, too.
Yeah, I was going to say. Probably a 90-minute boil, if not even 120, yeah.
Yeah, let's go that 120. So why we would do that with a 120-minute boil edition, or not boil edition, I don't really care when you add the hops. You can add that at 60 or 90 or whatever.
Yeah, that doesn't affect a whole lot. Your utilization is really similar.
Yeah, but with that extra boil time, that's really going to punch forward those sweet notes. And actually, there are some stabilizing compounds that are formed with longer boils. Through the Maillard reaction or similar reactions, there's actually some of those compounds that help stabilize the beer, which makes them less prone to bad flavors over the course of being maybe presented with some oxygen along their lifespan. These are things that are meant to be aged, hence the name Old Ale.
Yeah, I boiled a beer for 3 hours this morning. OG 1094.
1094.
Yeah.
He only made like 230 gallons of it, though.
It's all right. Yeah, actually, it's more than that. It's all right. I had headspace in our fermenter, like a whole 2 gallons.
It's going to make such a mess. And then let's throw in a little flavoring addition. Not that you'll probably taste it by the time you actually taste this beer, but just for a safe measure, we'll go ahead and throw in some Kent Goldings, the prodigal son when it comes to hop additions. And that's going to make us have to drop this target down just to get within that range. I don't mind sitting on the high end of the...
yeah, that's a general thing I do for any small batch is I actually shoot for the high side because I assume my efficiency and my hop utilization is not going to be nearly as high.
What it says, yeah.
Brewer's Friend's actually a great recipe software because you can actually adjust for that too. I know back in the day when I used to brew a lot of beer back at home, I actually adjusted my utilization down to about, I think, 80% or so, and that actually gave me a much more, in my mind, accurate IBU number. So something to consider, that those calculators are not perfect, especially because they're assuming a lot of things that they can't really tell with your own system.
Yeah, there's a lot of people that ends up with lots of hops in the beer and very low overall IBUs, and so that does happen. Somebody already commented I thought we vehemently stayed away from crystal. Let's be honest, that's a pretty small amount of crystal for this style of beer, and there are some styles where it's appropriate.
Yeah, I was gonna say this is actually one of the few styles that I would say put some crystal malt like Yeah, it's gonna be a sweet beer. That's the reality.
Yep. Next, let's pick last for this. Let's kind of wrap this up a little bit faster so we can get to some other ones. Let's pick some yeast for this. I know for my head, I'm already thinking I want to go with a little bit of a workhorse yeast, something that I know is going to perform very well, but also not something that's going to be done with fermentation in like 2 to 3 days.
What are you thinking?
I'm thinking house.
Oh, you're thinking house?
What are you thinking?
I'm thinking ESB. I'm thinking an ESB strain.
I do like London ESB. That's my favorite yeast of all time. So we can go. That's gonna be pub.
Yeah,
actually.
just because that ESB strain is gonna push through the those dark fruit like plummy notes.
Yeah, it'll taste really good with it.
Yeah.
The one thing that pushed me away from that at first is just because house is more of a workhorse.
That's true.
Whereas, so when it comes to London ESB or pub, the important thing to know with higher alcohol beers specifically is that you guys all need to make sure you are taking really good care of that yeast. That means proper starter.
Yeah, I guess if you're on the high end, if you're pushing that 9-10% mark, then probably house would be a better one. Yeah, just to make sure that it chews through everything. But
if you do it right with pub, I mean, just like the barley wine that we did on the Anvil Foundry,
gonna add you a little bit extra characters. So.
It'll be really good. But just make sure it doesn't go to sleep. Speaking of not going to sleep, we're probably not going to want to go too low on the end of its fermentation temperature range. I would say probably planting right in the middle. Does that sound about right to you?
Yep. I pretty much English strains in general, other than house, I guess would be the only one that I can get away with going a little colder on. I try to keep those right between like 66 to 68 degrees. They seem to be really, really finicky on their ester development if they get too high, and obviously go to sleep if they get too low.
Yep.
So
So one thing that I would say is just get mostly through fermentation, and then you might, if you have a way to kick up that temperature to, even 72 to something like that to kick it out and make sure it does its whole job before going into conditioning, that would taste really, really phenomenal. So,
boom.
Thank you for the suggestion. Hopefully you guys like the Burton Ale.
It's like the hardest one right off the bat.
I know.
It's like Burton Ale. All right.
As soon as I read that it's similar to an old ale, hopefully I got that right. But the old ale is a style I'm more familiar with.
That sounds right.
At one point, this is the 2008 BJCP side guidelines. Actually, is the guidelines that at one point in my life I took the liberty of memorizing all of. So. Let's
and then promptly forgot them all. Hey, look, I can see comments again.
Yeah, and you guys can see your own comments too. So let's go back to that and let's pick up another. What's the next thing for? A lot of people are saying Fuller's. Fuller's is the pub strain that we were talking about.
I see black IPA on there. There's probably some more before that though.
Black IPA, sperm beer.
What?
Yeah, probably the black IPA. I get it. Session IPA/L. That's something that we're pretty familiar with. Smoky porter or stout sans coffee.
Oh my goodness, there's so many now.
There's a lot.
What did we do to ourselves?
Fruited Kolsch, Norwegian farmhouse ale, cream ale. All right, the next style that gets said that's already been said that is going to be the one that we do next. There's so many. Let's see. Way back here, we've got a couple more too. Lots of people saying saison. We got saison and rye saison right up there.
I like rye saison.
That would be really fun. I don't see anybody commenting yet. We could just be on a delay, though.
Probably. Oh, by the way, there was a thing on here that looks like you could have done ultra low latency. I think that would have made that delay not be so bad.
That would be the definition of the word latency.
Yeah.
All right. If no one's going to say anything, let's go with saison. Because saison... Oh, someone said cream ale.
Cream.
Oh, and black IPA. Oh, they're all like rolling in right now.
Nah.
All right. Cream ale's the first repeated
one. All right,
one.
cream.
So let's go with cream ale. Cream ale is definitely something we are a lot more familiar with because we do a lot of cream ales. But just to be on the safe side, let's go ahead and pull up the cream ale BJCP. I don't know if it's still cream ale on the pre-2015 guidelines.
Oh, it should be.
But I know that it was in the same category as blonde and Kolsch in the 2008 style guidelines. Yeah, it looks like it's in the 2015 ones too. And then in 2008, they were under light hybrid as the style. Control find.
Yeah, they are.
Cream ale. Just to show everyone what we're going for.
Cream de la
okay,
cream.
that's way at the beginning. Clean, well-attenuated, flavorful American lawnmower beer. I agree. I do like lawn mowing. And so we'll just go down to the vital statistics. We're looking for 8 to 20 IBUs, so that's really on the low side. That is light lager-esque, if you will. We're looking for 4.2 to 5.6 alcohol and keep that SRM under 5. When it comes down to getting some ingredients that we're going to need, I know that has, I think, up to 20%. Yep, up to 20% maize right there. and or glucose and simple sugars. So that's a good way to get this thing nice and light. And it's a very similar strategy to what we do when we build our cream ales.
Yeah.
So
super easy sesh beer.
Do they have an easy restart this guy? Should we save it for people or no?
Yeah, sure, go for it. Put genus on it though. Burton Ale, genus. Bam. So yeah, we'll throw all these guys up so you can Google them and find them on Brewer's Friend. Okay, really, that's unnecessary.
What? Oh yeah, I was just gonna say.
Share it too before you save.
Oh yeah, sure.
Bam. Oh, I think it's already shared. Yeah, it's shared.
Oh, right. Oh yeah, we have it as stock shared.
Okay. Sounds good. Make a new one.
New beer recipe. Let's go to
cream de la cream. Me so creamy. This reminds me back to the good old days when you first started out and we were building up recipe kits under the name of iBlue.
There's a blueberry cream ale. That was a great beer. Blueberry cream ale,
so
iBlue cream ale. It's just exquisite when it comes to
all right. Anyway,
naming.
Well, let's get right into this one. So for grains, I would just start with a really nice, highly modified pale malt.
So that's going to be either just regular 2 rows, what we usually go with, but you can also do something like just a nice light Pilsner malt if you want to go that way. We did a cream ale once with Link Malt's Pilsner malts, their Baroness Pilsner, and that was actually really tasty.
So bottom line, though, I think highly modified is the key here. Kind of opposite of what we just did with that Burton. And so it's much smaller grain bill. We're going for much smaller beer. So now Peter's getting in the adjuncts, which is going to be some corn and or some rice. Get those in there.
If we want to make sure it's nice and dry, we can also maybe go half pound of
dextrose as well. Yeah. So dextrose is something that we use as we definitely don't look down on dextrose. It's a tool that we use actually. If you want to dry a beer out, you add dextrose. That's just one of the tools in the arsenal that you can throw at something. So
it's the number one thing that we do for like IPAs that are going to be a little bit hoppier. Doing a nice IPA that's going to be on that hoppy side, you kind of need that dextrose because it wants to finish dry, and if it doesn't finish dry, you're going to end up with too much battling sweetness from the malts. Really, you want the hops to be the stars of that.
Yeah, it's going to taste like a weird barley wine that's not a barley wine.
Yeah.
It's like, hey, it's a barley wine that's only 7%. What? Okay.
What?
What are you looking at now?
I'm just seeing if they said anything about water profile. Generally speaking, when it
people
comes
are
to
saying usually use 6-row for it, but
6-row is
you could use 6-row, but it's a little bit harder to find. It's usually more expensive. The 2-row is going to be just as good nowadays.
This day and age, the way that basically the malt is gathered. So 6-row used to be used because it was very, very cheap back in the day because it was the most common grain out there, and it had higher yield. And back then, it had much higher diastatic power, whereas today, the diastatic power is definitely not along the same vein. So 6-row might be, in the range of maybe 20% more diastatic power than your classic 2-row. And we actually have even a Pilsner malt up there that has the same diastatic power. So let's go into hops on this next one.
Oh, okay.
Hops on this one, we probably only need one addition, and it's not going to be a very big addition. And it's going to be some sort of a saaz derivative, probably an American saaz derivative or Hallertau derivative, something like that. So anywhere in that range, as long as we're not using very much of it, we like to let these hops kind of take a back seat. And so instead of using a lot of something like saaz, like let's say 2+ ounces of saaz to get the IBU range that we'd look for, we actually like to use maybe a half ounce of something that's going to be higher IBUs like Cluster or Sterling or any of those that
Willamette, Mount Hood.
Any of those that taste like saaz-ish but get you, you don't have to use very much of it.
Yeah, that lower hop bill is gonna make it really clean too. You're not gonna get any of that vegetal material.
Yeah, I've even gotten to the point like I've used something like Warrior in this, so I can use
Bravo.
Something that's really, really high
Bravo's
IBU.
super clean. Yeah, you could throw like. I mean, what are we shooting for a 5-gallon batch? We're throwing like a third of an ounce or something at it.
Crazy low amounts. My original American light lager recipe, actually, that you can find, the $22 cheap and fast light lager, that one uses Columbus for the same reason. It's just you use so little of it. And that's as close as I can get to when I think of how professional brewers like the big boys, Anheuser-Busch, those people, how they're getting their IBUs, because they're using extracts, which basically is they want the raw bitterness and none of the hop flavor, basically. So
trying
that's
to
kind
keep
of the
those
idea
beers
there.
as absolutely clean as possible.
All right, let's go on to yeast. Yeast, obvious with this, is going to be. We never talked about water profile. Let's go ahead and do that. Basically, something with a cream ale is going to be on the very, very low minerality. In the same vein, maybe a touch more aggressive than something like a light lager. And so I would say anywhere between like light colored and malty and light colored and balanced would be where we're aiming for. Or if you wanted to pick something.
What's the light color and balance give us?
Let's see. Light color.
Because I'm thinking
that's way too much. Light colored and malty. That's a little bit more in range, but that's way high on the chlorides.
Yeah,
we're going for something that's like really, really dry. So let's pick up. Let's see what Munich Dark Lager has. Hey, that's getting closer.
Now you're just picking random stuff.
I'm just trying to see what they all
Bottom
offer.
line for this style, keep your overall hardness low if you can. If I were to brew this with our water, I would probably just use our water straight. I know we have very little chlorides, very little sulfates here. So those are going to be balanced. If anything, what I would probably do just to lower the overall total hardness is I might even use just a little bit of distilled water. Maybe anywhere from a quarter to possibly up to 50%. If you got really hard water like I got out at my house, I would definitely dilute that down by about 50%.
Yeah.
So.
And if you are building from scratch, I would say keep it on the low end. Make sure you have some calcium and magnesium for your yeast to work with. I just upped these a little bit. So it's not as bone bare minerals as like a very, very light lager, but you got a little to work with, but it's still definitely astronomically lighter if you look at that compared to the Burton.
Oh, yeah.
Burton on Trent one that we started with.
Very different ends of the spectrum. Otherwise, if you did something like a Burton, it'd just end up tasting like chalk.
Yeah. Let's go with some yeast. Oh, yeah, by the way, Burton ales are really good for sweeter beers. They got that sugar to stand up to all the minerality, and so it kind of works as a balancing agent. Just kind of like how hops would balance out all the malt profiles, that sugar is going to do this, or that minerality is going to do the same thing. But back to cream ales. Let's pick a yeast for this guy.
That should probably just be like a German ale strain, shouldn't it?
German ale is going to be perfect.
Low fermentation temps too.
Yeah, you want to keep it on the. I do have a sneaky secret that I like to do with my cream ales specifically. If you didn't want to go with the classic German ale and then worry about finding it on the back end, there's actually a really fun yeast that Yeast makes that works very similar to a Kolsch strain and finds out really well. It's a workhorse, and that is this guy right. Oh, I almost got it.
Oh, yeah, that would be good. The 1010.
Yeah, American Wheat 1010.
Yeah. That's the Widmer strain. The Widmer Hefeweizen strain. Yeah, that's a really nice balanced yeast strain is the best way to put that.
Yeah, and it is surprisingly flocculent. It does make nice, clear beers. For being a wheat yeast, obviously, I guess Widmer Hefeweizen is actually pretty clear anyways.
Yeah.
But so it's a good neutral fermenter, also an ale strain, so it fits the category of cream ale. So I would say anywhere between German ale, Kolsch yeast, or this American wheat yeast. Those would be kind of my three go-tos.
Yeah. All of them are going to be fermented on the colder end of their range, though. That's kind of the key factor here. Is
let's throw down like clean. 62 or something like that.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, when I do like that German ale, I even ferment it like into the 50s. That's crazy.
Go ahead and click starter on this guy.
Yeah.
You guys should always be doing starters. Just kind of a general good rule of thumb.
All right. Well, that is cream ale for you. On to the next one.
Yeah, let's get it. Also, comment below if you guys are enjoying this format. If it's something that interests you, let us know. We like being able to build out these recipes. We do it day in and day out for people that come in, and we figured we'd go ahead and share it with you.
Meanwhile, people are just having like their own thing in the comments.
It's
probably questions that we should have been answering, but
Yeah, if other people got it. Count Drunkula's got her back when it comes to answering the
KO's on
question.
the same level as I am with the iBlue cream, yeah. It's like...
No, he liked it. He said, ah, ha, ha, ha. It's so good. It's so good.
In your mouth.
Hoppy. So we've gotten multiple saisons, and then we got somebody saying hoppy saison. We still got black IPA. Which one is the first one? Let's do those two, and those will be the two that we close out with. Probably, because I don't think we need to be doing this forever. We can do this more if you guys like it. So I see Goza over there. We've got great Goza recipes and kettle sour recipes. But let's go back up to people who have already asked for things, and let's do hoppy, rye, saison, because those are the three things that have been asked for.
Like all in one?
Yeah, all in one.
Hoppy, rye,
someone
saison.
wanted a saison, someone wanted a hoppy saison, someone wanted a rye saison. So let's go hoppy, rye, saison.
All right, sounds good. Hoppy, rye, saison. So obviously saison. Let's just kind of skip down to the yeast for that real fast.
Yeah. So saison yeast is going to be the most important.
If we are using rye, I'm thinking to just go French.
That's exactly what I was thinking. I was also thinking French is going to, like that peppery note is going to add into the how we're going to do the hops.
It's going to tear through it. It's going to leave it nice and dry. It is going to build on that earthy spice of the rye with a white pepper character from the yeast. And some cloviness from the yeast as well.
It'll create some phenomenal spice to go with the spiciness of the rye, and it'll also leave you with a little bit of, I guess, zestiness is how I would describe it, that I think will go well with the hops too. When it comes to French saison yeast, it's a workhorse. You can kind of count on it to do whatever for you. But if you want to get the optimum flavor off of your French saison yeast, what temperature should you ferment it at?
It depends. Hot? Like, what are you saying?
Yeah, hot.
I mean,
obviously.
I always love to ferment my saisons hot. I'm gonna say like 75 to 80.
I was gonna say 75 to 82.
What?
Let's go 70.
It's
let's go
like
75.
we've been brewing for 5 years together.
It's like we make out sometimes.
How long has it been actually?
I don't know how. Maybe 5 years. 4
or 5
years.
A while ago.
Matt, I'll take
like
one
2
too.
years after you started the shop.
I'll take one too. Yeah. Matt's going running with us. I just settled it. He probably had to ran today.
Okay.
So the saison yeast, and one thing that I actually really like to do with saison yeast, specifically the French saison, is I will make a. I love I think my favorite saisons that I've ever made. It's a repitch on the same yeast. Matt, you want to see what we're doing? We're this thing right there. That's us in the corner right there. Yeah. Oh, I do. Logan doesn't.
I'll just have a root beer actually.
Logan wants a root beer. Yeah, that sounds great. Man, look at this service.
And wow,
service with a smile.
Peter is like so on focus right now.
Totally focused.
Let's just get right into the grain bill. Rye, we gotta have rye. Also, I'm gonna make this a big beer because YOLO.
Yeah, double imperial hoppy rye saison. It's decided.
No, actually, you're gonna want that because this yeast is gonna tear through and give
It'll
you
tear through pretty much
single-digit
anything.
FGs. Yeah.
So there's actually you might get that.
Yeah, I better get this. All right.
Yeah. By the way, there's a screen behind you. So actually, when it comes to this, we're going to start with a highly enzymatic yeast, which is not in Brewer's Friend. It's not in Brewer's Friend, so we're just going to say it's Pilsner. But the yeast that we're going for is actually Heidelberg. Heidelberg is a super, super light Pilsner malts. Comes in at 1.2 level bond. And not like this 1.6. But why I like it is it's highly enzymatic, and so we're going to be able to throw some extra adjunct at this, some extra non-convertible, non-fermentable stuff, and that's going to be that's going to be what helps convert the high adjunct that we can have with extra rye. When it comes to a beer like this, I'm also going to throw obviously rye at it, but I'm going to do a blend of both malted rye and flaked rye. If I can keep this microphone away from Logan. Logan sound too bad? No, he's coming back in. He's good. Hey, now we're good.
Fruit and beer.
Sorry, world, for the chaos out there. I
told you 6 o'clock stream. I was like, you know what's gonna happen.
Yeah, it's gonna be the ideal time for us to stream.
Okay, where are we at?
I was telling them that's gonna be Heidelberg malt because I want to be able to do a higher adjunct bill on the rye.
Yeah, you do.
And so the extra enzymes from the Heidelberg malts will be pretty perfect for being able to do that.
Yeah.
And then I also mentioned that we're gonna be doing a combination. I was gonna say flaked and malted rye.
Definitely some flake stuff in there.
So let's go. What'd you say? 3 pounds of malted and 1.5 of flakes.
Yeah, actually that sounds good. I was gonna say I was gonna go 4 of the regular one, but yeah, flaked is good. Gotta get those chewy bits in there.
That's right, those chewy bits, and then also flaked just emphasizes that pumpernickel spice.
Yeah,
it's like, ooh.
And then
you'll notice I have a little extra section there.
And then 'cause YOLO, right? A little bit of roasted rye, just a pinch.
You're talking about a black IPA flaked. Whatever, a black IPA Imperial Rye Saison. Is that what you're trying to get to?
Somebody keeps saying they want to do a black IPA.
Black Saisons are really good, but I want to avoid that. I'm actually just going to say we're going to throw some acid malt in this.
Fine. All right, that looks good.
By the way, black Saisons are kind of a misnomer in the way that the name is portrayed. They're not actually fully black. They're kind of like this amber with a black hue. So that was just a little bit of that roasted rye would have given you that.
Everybody yell at Peter for not putting roasted rye in this, by the way.
Don't yell at me, guys.
The chocolate rye actually would have been really good. Just a little bit, like 3 ounces.
A little bit of chocolate rye. Turn it into an amber. It would still be delicious, but I think we want to not do that
gorgeous beer,
right now.
you know it.
Let's just. I'm not going to focus too much on water can with this.
Okay.
Let's just go German something. Munich. That sounds good. Oh, that's way high bicarb. Let's not do that. Like I said, I'm not going to focus on this at all. I'm just going to skip through. Balanced profile. Perfect. So here's where a hoppy saison kind of is an interesting thing to do. With a hoppy saison, you're not hopping this like an IPA, and so what we're going to do is we're going to let this thing ferment out super hot, which is going to push off some of the volatile aromatics from the hops, obviously. So we're going to keep the actual boil additions pretty simple, but how we're going to make it a hoppy saison is we're going to dry hop the poop out of it.
Poops out of it with laurel.
Oh yeah, that sounds delicious.
Yeah, actually, laurel does sound really good.
So let's go ahead and do I don't know, 1.5 ounces of cryo laurels.
Sounds good to me. And then like a little bit of pearl in the boil or something like that.
Yeah, I was gonna say pearl. Any Sauser style.
Any nice clean
pseudo hoppy.
Clean German hop.
Pearl sounds great.
Computer's distracting.
Pearl's actually got a nice spiciness to it as well, so that'll kind of play in well with the saison yeast and play in well with the rye. I think Pearl's a really good choice for that.
I felt something on my leg, and there was a hand reaching between my legs.
That sounds appropriate.
Wait, down like on the floor, not
context. Context. Who's behind that podium, Logan?
So Pearl's going to give you some clean bittering. And then, that laurel, for those of you that aren't familiar with it, it's still kind of one of the New World-ish hops, but is very, very herbal in its flavor profile. So that's going to, I think, just blend really nicely with the characteristic that the yeast is going to throw off.
Yeah, absolutely. And we went for, I went a little bit on the high side for what a saison would be.
Yeah.
Here's a fun little trick when you're looking in your brewer's friend. By the way, you can also type in saison. And then once you have subcategory of saison, then you can just be like, "What if am I within guidelines?" And I'll be like, "Yeah, your ABV is looking good. Yeah, your IBU is looking good." Right? I nailed it right on that high end. I was like, "Yeah, we're gonna go on the high end of a saison. Perfect."
Yeah.
And then SRM, obviously it says that we might be a little bit on the light end for if it's under Maury standards, but these two says we're good. Basically, we're looking like a saison here.
Saison. So notice that on our hop schedule, we didn't throw any of the big fruity hops in there either. Those are totally going to clash flavor-wise.
Absolutely, yeah.
Definitely would avoid those if possible. Sorry, not talking into the mic. Okay, we good? Is that it? We done?
Saved.
Or did we get the water?
Yeah, we got the water.
Okay, perfect. So you got water.
Yeah, so we got one more to do. We're going to do black IPA to finish this off. If you've got stuff that you want us to do, then just tune in on the next time. Tell us to do this again. If enough people say that we should do this again, we'll totally do this again.
A hoppy black saison.
We should have just done a hoppy black saison. I get it. Any new questions we got to look at?
Probably a bajillion of them.
Yeah, sorry, we can't. Since we're using the computer to screen share, we can't actually look at your comments during the same time unless I look over at my computer, which is really far away. But we know we got one more beer to do. We're going to do a black IPA, talk to you about what goes into that. And then that's how we're going to close this live stream out. Maybe, I don't know, maybe take a couple extra questions after this, but no more full.
Should we do an extract? Let's do an extract.
Right,
we keep doing all grain. Yeah, let's do an extract. Black IPA extract, especially because that's going to be tricky because, well, actually, no, it's not. An extract's going to work really well with a black IPA. You know why? I'll bet you don't. Do you?
Yes, they do. We're just going to do extract and then add a ton of enzymes.
It's because of body. The trick to a black IPA is to maintain a beer with body while throwing butt tons of bittering hops at it. And balancing that bitterness with and roastiness as well.
So here's what we're going to do, boys. We're going to go ahead and get some Cooper's pre-made black IPA kits. And we're just going to add water and yeast and call it a day.
Just add water.
just add water. No, we wouldn't do that.
I was going to say, you don't have to add yeast. The yeast is already in there, right? It's in the malt.
Yeah. Yeah, it comes with whatever the pre-made packet that's already expired.
I think there is some that actually still do
that. No, we always start with something like this when we're going to build some flavors. We're going to start with just light DME or extra light DME. Let's go extra light because YOLO. And then maybe a little bit of corn shugs. We'll see what we need to do at the very end.
Corn shugs, never hurt.
A little bit of corn shugs.
I mean, that's basically giving us the same thing as if we had like 10 pounds of just pale malt right now.
Standard mash right there. And then we'll build all our flavors with these steeping grains. And one thing that we will do in black IPA is, well, two things that we'll do. First of all, we're going to avoid any heavy roast qualities. So you won't see us using like black malt, roasted barley, even something a little bit more aggressive like roasted rye. Things like chocolate wheat or midnight wheat, those could work. Any of the debittered carafas, those could work. We're going to build the darkness with those debittered, non-aggressive grains because we want the hops to be the only thing that's giving you that acidity. And that's the end of my spiel.
That's the end of your spiel. That's a good spiel. Also, so throw in your dark malt.
So I'll put the dark malt down here because I like to do things in order. In order of size, in order of how much I'm going to add.
I was going to add some flake stuff in too, which is going to go at the end.
I do flakes at the end. I can delete. I can always delete upwards.
We have a weird. It's just because of the way we run things through the mill here. We have like this like pattern that nobody else gets, and then we yell at them for not like knowing exactly what's going on.
Why did you write down your recipe out of order?
So anyway, though, I like to add some flaked, anything flaked actually. Really, usually my go-to is some flaked oats. With that said, flaked wheat, flaked rye, flaked barley. Flaked barley is actually probably the most appropriate.
Yeah, actually, I can say flaked wheat going really well too.
Yeah, but something to give you a little bit more chewiness and a little bit more body. Like I said earlier, to withstand up to the roastiness and the otherwise really, really bitter character of a beer.
Yeah. So I'll throw that at the end. Yeah, like Logan said, we put all our flake stuff at the end just because.
Pound and a half sounds about right.
Because we don't run those through our mills. If you have an independent roller mill, a non-geared mill, running flake stuff through it can jam the rollers. So we always leave those off to the side.
I'm laughing too because you know where I'm going to go next with this, which is somebody already called us out on.
Yeah.
We definitely don't approve.
We're using Special X instead.
Actually, Special X would be great.
Perfect. We don't have to use crystal. No, this is the one time where we use, we also use crystals in black IPAs because if you go from that flat base malt to the aggressive hoppiness and darkness, then it kind of leaves that middle ground out. And crystal, with this much basically bittering aggression that goes into a beer like this, crystal actually is a really good bridge. But you can skip that by using something like Caramunic, which is only a kind of crystal, or we can use Special X.
I usually like dark crystals too.
Yeah, exactly. 120 is what I would.
Yeah, I was going to say crystal like 70, 80 and above.
Yeah.
is what I would recommend.
Fine, we'll do it just so people can yell at us.
And then for quantities for a 5-gallon batch, it depends on how boozy you're making it, but I would just say ballpark about somewhere about a half pound to maybe 3/4 pounds of total crystal. And you could do a couple different ones, be that even if you're using Special X, kind of have that the red malt is what I'm going to call it, Bill, be about a half pound to 3/4 pounds.
Yeah, basically with a black IPA, you don't want it to be like a stout IPA. You want it to be a nice round middle, like that amber hue that's kissed with that black color.
Yeah. You could even use
you build all those ambers.
Did you say Red X or Special X earlier?
I said Special X.
Special X.
You want to use Red X for the bottom one? I'm like something in the Munich range here. Red X would work.
Red X would work then. Yeah. They probably don't even have that in Brewer's Friend. Oh, what? They have it now.
You don't think they have? They didn't have Special X though. I was a little bit bummed.
Red X is a super tasty malt, by the way.
Yeah. Boom. Black IPA recipe, partly made.
Done.
We haven't had the. I just got really excited about the malt bill. That's your malt bill, guys. That's all you get.
Yeast. Doesn't have to be anything special.
Yeah.
Chico strain would work. House would work. Northwest Ale would work.
Something's going to be it's going to be pretty neutral. That can pronounce hops, but also not leave the malt behind.
Yep.
I'd actually personally I'd stay away from Chico. That can get a little bit tinny, a little bit too like poppy.
But if you're using that grain bill, that's
the grain bill will carry
it. Balancing out that grain bill really, with your hops too.
Yeah. Let's. I'm actually just going to start with the balance profile and do a little bit of adjustment.
Yeah. West Coast is what you're going for really here.
Yeah, let's take down. That's really high on that.
So, high sulfate to chloride ratio, hardness in the medium-ish range. And I feel like a little bit of sodium, too, is actually going to help out in this beer. That's going to help round out that mouthfeel as well.
Yeah, so that's why I went relatively high compared to what we like.
So you did add a little bit in there.
I took the whole thing down. Actually, this balance profile too was everything way high.
Yeah, the beauty of sodium is that you can get it from table salt.
Yeah.
So instead of adding calcium
chloride, non-iodized table salt. Yeah, so we just use sea salt. Yeah, something in this range. You've got relatively high sulfate to chloride ratio, but you're not leaving the chlorides behind. You got some sodium to help build that same mouthfeel that the chloride's going to do. And then it's not too minerally. Again, if it's extra minerally, that can be an issue.
I wouldn't even be afraid to up those sulfates a little bit more, but
we'd probably be fine all the way up to 150, honestly. But yeah, the biggest thing is keeping this minerality with the bicarbonates and calciums relatively low, the overall minerality low, just because you don't want those combating the roast.
And onto the hops.
Onto the hops.
You can go two ways, but my go-to is to...
Maybe you can go two ways. I can go all ways.
Stop. You can go tropically, but I'm going to definitely lean towards some classic sea hop style. Well, I guess that can be a lot of things.
Yeah, let's get some dankness in there. That's what I'm thinking. That's what you're thinking?
Dankness,
let's get some dankness.
Pininess.
Yeah.
Like, you want that pine tree character. So you're going to want, obviously, some Chinook in there. Like, Chinook's probably going to honestly be the dominant thing.
As fresh as you can get.
I've used a Autonum
fresh to death
before. That's worked out really well.
Let's make this a 90-minute boil. That sounds good.
Autonum can vary year to year, though, so Chinook's kind of the...
Autonum has a balancing hop, yeah.
Yeah, it's a really good base. And then actually Comet, I don't think would be a terrible thing to throw in there. Comet is going to support that Chinook. So.
Well, let's keep this simple because we don't want to not keep this simple.
All right, Chinook and Comet.
Chinook and Comet? What about the dank?
Oh,
I want the danky dank.
What did we just get that was dank? Was that the Idaho 7 or was that something else?
Idaho 7 had a little bit of dankness with some fruitiness. Idaho 7 would work, actually.
It was Cashmere. Cashmere was the
Did that have some dank to it?
Cashmere is a danky dank. Yeah, that one, we need to actually play with that more.
I don't know why you don't just love Columbus like I do. So here's...
We can do Columbus, too. I do love Columbus. It's my favorite hop.
Huh? Oh, yeah, I'm not going to make it. Yeah, so Columbus is... what am I doing? I've been doing the same thing for the last 2 minutes.
Fine. Chinook and Columbus. Classic. Just start typing.
Columbus. So here's the thing with the secondary, I'm going to call them like flavoring middle editions. What temperature or what time you're adding these in, you should actually be counting from the end of the boil. So it's going to be very dependent on how fast you chill your wort. And so what I like to say is instead of timing these out from... let's say the very, very end of the boil, it's almost a better idea to kind of time them back from when your boil or when your beer is going to hit like 190 degrees, because that's when things kind of really slow down in terms of extraction. So for the sake of this, let's say that you hit that 190 degrees relatively fast, like 2 minutes after you start chilling. We can basically call this relatively what it would be on a recipe. But if you have a really slow chilling mechanism, like a lot of you do, then just adjust accordingly so you're not going really, really aggressive with this. So I'm gonna make this a 20-minute edition, but if you chill a little bit slower, go ahead and make this like a 15 or a 10-minute edition. And then from there, it's a lot of just back end stuff.
90, not a 60.
Oh yeah, made a 90-minute boil.
Okay.
Like why not?
Yeah, YOLO. Give you a little bit more efficiency. Well, actually, it won't for this, but
yeah, it's just up that efficiency. Why not? We're just gonna really, really sparge these grains.
Actually, it ups the utilization for the extract batches a lot more than it does all grain, though.
Yeah,
that is true. So 90-minute editions, if you got the time, you can actually use quite a bit less hops.
That actually. Speaking of extract, you can also do half a late edition. For these.
Okay, don't get carried away now.
That's okay. We'll talk about that later. We have this at full boil. So when it comes to partial boil,
you do? Okay.
Yeah, when it comes to partial boil, split this edition in half basically, and add half of it, or even up to 2/3 of it, in the last 10-15 minutes. All right, let's get some late stuff in here. We're gonna want some flame out, whirlpool, dry hop, all that.
I'm thinking like the classic. So if you got your 90, you got your 20, we probably need like our 5 in our whirlpool, right?
Yeah, and then a dry hop.
I mean, if you do your whirlpool right, you don't even need a dry hop with this, in my opinion. I think if you put the right hops in there, treat your beer good, no dry hop necessary. That's just my takeaway from a black IPA. But if you really wanna do it, then
I always want to do it.
Yeah, and apparently we're using whole leaf hops. Speaking of which, call back to the very first beer that we did.
I don't have any whole leaf hops on there. What are you saying?
If you wanted to use whole leaf hops for that Burton Old Ale, that would actually be pretty appropriate for that style.
Yes.
Otherwise, pretty much all people can get is pellets these days. At least if you want fresh hops. That's the sad part. Whole leaf just not so fresh.
Boom. How's that look?
Done? All right. Yeah, so you're loading it up. So you got that. You got a little dry hop. You got a nice clean dry hop. Yeah. All right. There you go. Black IPA.
And you got some danky dank. Honestly, the hopping schedule is a little bit more important than what hops you use if you try to go on the tropical side of it. Substitute all these out for Simcoe.
Yeah. The bottom line is you got your classic kind of West Coast bittering, late-ish boil, and then whirlpool, and maybe a dry hop, depending on how crazy you want to get with those aromatics. Oh, and then bitterness, you can kind of see too. It's up there.
Boom.
For sure.
See that? Look at that, guys. See that green check mark? It means we know what we're doing.
Yeah, bitterness is up there. If you want, I'm kind of old school, so what I say is if you want to make it a little less bitter, I call them Cascadian dark ales, even though it's technically the same category. But in my mind, Cascadian dark ale is a little bit smoother than a black IPA.
I agree. Sometimes.
Sometimes never. Yeah.
Anyway, so this is now saved. If you want to check out any of our recipes, any of our thousands of recipes, you just saw us make 4 recipes, and so our brewer's friend is kind of flooded with a lot of recipes, but you can check them all out. Most of them are okay. Some of them are really bad because they were made by customers or just us copying over customers' recipes so we can build them. But most of them are good. Feel free to check them out.
Thanks for tuning in tonight. I know this was a little bit different, so please leave a comment on what you thought of this and whether you want us to do it some more. Otherwise, we will see you on Sunday.
See you on Sunday. Save your questions for Sunday. We do a Q&A at the end of every Sunday live stream.
8:45 a.m. Pacific Standard Time.
Yeah.
Okay. Good.
Thanks for watching, guys. Hope you guys enjoyed. Let us know more if you want more style breakdowns like this on a different day when we, don't have limited time. All right. I love you too. No, you hang up.
No, you hang up.
Okay, bye.
Bye.